Okay, good morning everybody. I will open the delayed council meeting, sorry for lateness, for the 31st of October. We'll open with our karakia. So all together.
Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tātara ki tai. E hi ake ana, te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. Whitewash, believe it.
Thank you. We've got apologies this morning from Councillor Leggett and Taku Parai, and we note that Councillor Wehappy is on an absence. So I've moved that, seconded by Councillor Duncan. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. We welcome back Councillor Johnson. Nice to see you. We have no public forum. Have we got any conflicts of interest declarations? No notifications of extraordinary business? None. So confirmation of minutes from the Extraordinary Council on the 26th of December and the Extraordinary Council on the 3rd of October. I'm going to move those. Is there any issues with them before I move them? Seconded by Councillor Hayward. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Mayor's report. We've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of things this month with councillors. This morning we have all come from the celebration of the Central Pacific Collective groundbreaking ceremony with Ngāti Toa, so that was a huge one. I've started off with the West football, had 3 of their games, seeing they made the quarterfinals. We've had Tuvalu Language Week. Then we've had the Whanau Manaki, sorry guys out there, kindergartens, end of conference, meeting up with the teachers. Willowbank Quarry blessing with Ngāti Toa. We've had the Silver Ferns game at the arena, unfortunately England won there. Then we've had the blessing of the 12 homes with Te Ara Murawai at Hukatea Street with Minister Bishop and Minister Potaka. Most of the councillors came to that. The Token Mano Queens have had 3 games over at the arena with 2 good wins. Fijian Language Week. I've had a Rotary meeting where I heard Nick Leggett talk to Rotary about infrastructure. Barbara Edmonds had a hui on Kenepuru Hospital. Jeff and Josh and I went to that with good news where it is going to remain open from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Police graduation with Hekia Parata as patron, so that was nice to catch up with her. We had the closing of the Red and Blue Wave exhibition with our Fijian community. The Kapimana Music Recital Awards, I did those. We had Niue Language Week, and I joined them to make bags and hair clips. It was another successful week. We did the Ngāti Toa Harbour Clean, Mike and I. They got an awful lot of rubbish out of our harbour, some weird things. The Biz Hub graduation at Whitireia, presented the awards. Phil and I went to the National Watercolour exhibition at Pātaka. Not good, another piece in the wall. Mike and I joined the Niue community for the 50th anniversary of self-government, joined the Cruising Club for the opening and flag raising and cannon fire for their season. The Huramurawai Parliament netball and rugby teams, Jeff and I went down to watch that, where Barbara Edmonds was blitzing on the field. Or the courts. I joined the Pukerua Bay Climate Hub to hear about the escarpment domes. If you haven't seen them, have a look online, they're really neat. Ross and Mike and I joined the NZTA Council and contractors to open the shared pathway at Papakowhai. So everyone's positive about that. Now it's open, which is good. Girl Native had their soft opening at Kaitahi. Their main one's this Friday if anyone wants to come along. Mike and I Mike went for me to the flag raising for the Waitanga Rural Community Association and schools for all the language weeks. Phil and Mike and Christine and I went to the Regional Sports Awards with Mike here and some staff. We've had the Lions vs Bay of Plenty game, spoke to the Graham Dingle students yesterday, joined the OIA Church for their health information evening, and they've got a health day this Saturday if anyone's needing vaccinations or anything to do with health. And of course we had our Central Pacific, and later today we have Mana prize giving, which I'm going to, and Aotea College, which Nathan is going to. So another busy month. We're winding down and ready for Christmas. We just got to get through the next 4 weeks. So we've got no petitions, and with taku away, we'll keep going. So committee recommendations. Councillor Trillin, can you do them both?
Can do, thank you, Mayor Baker. I move that the committee recommendations from Te Puna Kōrero from the 3rd of October 2024 and Te Puna Kōrero from the 17th of October 2024 be accepted.
Okay, who's going to second those? Councillor Waddle. There's no problems with anybody? All those in favour? All those against? Carried. I'm going to have a quick change of agenda. We're just going to do the 2025 meeting calendar first because there's not much talk on that. So I'm going to move that, seconded by Councillor Ford. Any issues for anyone? No. All those for? All those against? Carried. So now we go to our first one, 11.1, the Porirua City Council Annual Report. I'm going to move it, put it on the table, seconded by, Councillor Trillin, sorry. I'm going to ask Warren Allen to come up and EY Sam. And in there I have to have option 2. We're going to adopt the annual report and summary annual report for the year 30th of June 2024 in accordance with section 98 of the Local Government Act 2002, incorporating the amendments as tabled. You're happy with that, the seconder? Yep, you were. Just wanted to make sure, so it was. Councillor Trillin. Okay, I'll hand over to you, Warren and Sam.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good morning to you and to councillors. It's always a great pleasure to come at this time of the year when you are considering this year's annual report. So just 3 points that I would like to make. First, to confirm that the Audit and Risk Subcommittee have undertaken their work in accordance with their terms of reference on this annual report. The second item, just to say once again, an excellent outcome. The current environment is causing some difficulties for councils around the country to put their annual report and financial statements in particular together. But here in Porirua, you have done a great job again this year. I say this every year. But your finance team under the CFO works very well with the external auditors, and we get to this position where you can consider it. Draw particular attention this year that we've finally got an unqualified audit opinion, and that, I can tell you, is worth celebrating. You know, for 2 or 3 years, we've had minor qualifications, as have other councils around the country, but some really great work has been done to ensure that those can be removed. My second point that I wish to raise is that, as a sector around the country, the challenge of the revaluation, particularly of the water infrastructure assets, is proving very difficult. For 2 key reasons. Firstly, it's being done in an environment that's in the middle of a lot of reform, as you're well aware of. And secondly, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen high levels of inflation. So therefore, sort of unit costs that are used in terms of revaluation of the water infrastructure assets in particular have risen. It's an area that's subject to a lot of judgment, and as valuers get involved, that judgment sort of comes to play. This year for Porirua City Council wasn't a revaluation year, but the valuation still needs to be looked at, and both from your finance team and the auditors, that has been signed off. The third and final point is to have a look at the result, a really excellent result. A small deficit, only 343,000. That's sort of really not even the roundings. But if you compare it to last year, where you had about a 12 million gain, It's important to draw attention that that gain last year came about through a profit on the revaluation of the interest rate swaps. This year, that profit turned around to a loss of 1.8 million. So I always, in these situations, don't look so much at that bottom line in the revenue statement, but more at the operating surplus in the cash flow statement. And it's really pleasing to see that's positive at nearly 33 million. And that surplus from the operating is then put together with your new borrowing of a net 70 million and used in your capital expenditure. So, and it's because the revenue result has a depreciation charge in, which is not a cash impact. So, if you look at the cash flow statement, that figure of 33 million, which is pretty consistent, and that gives you the funds available to add to your borrowings to do the capital program. So, Mayor, certainly on behalf of the Audit and Risk Committee, we're happy to recommend that councillors consider approval of the 2024 annual report.
Thank you, Warren. Sam, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mayor. Just really to reiterate the comments I made at the Audit and Risk Committee, we're at the end of another successful process with management in a long year, including the long-term plan, which concluded in June. So reiterate Warren's comments, and we're done subject to final QA of the annual report and any discussion by council this morning.
Thank you both for your work. Okay, I'll open it up for Councillor Hayward.
Ata Māori, koro matua, mehe kai karihira katoa. Thank you very much for coming in and presenting the item on the annual report. I note that there are a number of amendments made which all seem to pertain to Wellington Water related factors. Is this yet again another instance of Wellington Water being just out of sync with our work around the annual plan and having to do a tidy up of these measures?
Thanks for the question. I think the changes tabled this morning relate to the complaints matters, which councillors may be familiar with the items that were qualified in previous audits, and the path out of that qualification was Porirua taking control of its own destiny on how it records complaints. So there's interdependency with Wellington Water in that process, but the timeliness of it's a multifaceted element.
Once up. So following on from that, I guess I want to get a sense of assurance that in subsequent years when we have these reports and the work, carrying on the work that officers have already done, trying to, as you say, take control of its own destiny in terms of this reporting information, that we are in a process where we will try and avoid as many amendments at this stage of the documentation in order to ensure that when people are looking at these documents, the average joker out there sees that this stuff is coming in a way that doesn't create the impression that it's not as transparent as it could possibly be.
Yeah, I think there's alignment across the board of concluding these earlier in the annual process.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Yeah, Councillor Filo.
Good morning. Thank you for coming in and for sharing your expert opinion on the findings. I want to acknowledge too the work that's been done in this reporting period from council staff, and in particular, I was looking at the budgets and looking at all the different departments, and there's so many who have kept a budget and have made savings. Majority of all of you have done that, so I want to acknowledge that and that hard work that you're not only done in terms of outcomes, but also with finding savings or sticking to the budget. I do have some questions for clarification. It probably might not be you that necessarily answer it, but they're just things that popped up and I thought, I'd like to get a bit of clarity on those. So I actually did bring this up, I think, in the audit and risk. On page 94, regarding the stormwater, I noticed that just over 3 million was taken from the rates revenue, then was budgeted for. And there was an extra 2.3 million in the OPEX expenses to the suppliers. So we know also about the capital cut. I note that in the figures, but I just wanted explanation or some context around why those figures were so much out of the scope of the budget that was planned.
Mayor, Councillor Philo was correct. I'm afraid I can't answer that. Perhaps the
Mike's going to.
yeah, the CFO or
no.
Mike or
CFO.
No, it doesn't look like we can answer that question right here and now, Councillor. We're going to have to come back to you. Apologies.
Come back to me for that one. Okay, I've got a couple more. With potable water, which is on page 100. Yeah, so it's similar. I note that there was about 1.7 million extra taken from the rates revenue than what was budgeted for, and a 1.3 million extra taken in terms of expenses from the OPEX. The CapEx was reduced by a lot, which, as again we know that we were part of that decision making, but. Yeah, do you have context for this one as well?
No.
I'm afraid I have to give you the same answer, Councillor. We have to come back to you on that.
Okay. Well, I guess not as bad, but on parks and reserves, 1.2 extra was taken in rates than was planned. This is on page 103. And it was just an extra spend of about 800K in the OPEX. So my question was, what was the extra spent on, and why was the extra rates taken?
Well, again, I'm afraid I haven't come prepared to answer that level of detail, but we can definitely come back to you.
Okay, I might just send this to you in an email, because the other one will probably be the same.
Send it to Wendy. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll send it to Wendy. Next one is on page 143. And it was just a question around, it seems like the salaries increased 3.6 million from the year before. And so I just wanted to know some context around why that was such a big jump.
Let me just find. Sorry.
143, I think.
143, yeah.
Salaries do go up every year. Staff typically get at least a CPI increase in their salaries. We've got collective agreements that also, we are bound by.
Living wage.
Living wage goes up every year, so it typically goes up every year unless we reduce staff numbers, and we have not at this point reduced staff numbers. Probably, actually, that's quite a low increase. We will have been carrying vacancies to account for some of that increase, so it's given the number of staff we've got and the amount of money, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's not that high. But yes, from year to year, there's pretty well always an increase if you look at our annual reports over the years.
So just so I'm clear, you're not saying it's necessarily extra staff, but more just general CPI increase?
Yeah, well, it's not CPI, it's a combination of things, but typically we do a salary round each year. Staff, we have a performance system that enables staff to to rise in the grade if they are performing adequately. And yes, as I say, we've also got collective agreements with 2 unions and living wage, which they have an inflationary impact anyway.
Okay, so that's just the key staff and their salaries have gone up because of agreements and general. Okay, correct. Thank you for letting me know.
Anybody else? Councillor Trilland.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that I'm really happy with where we've landed on this, particularly given some of the difficult economic deal with in recent time. I think we should be very proud of where we are at the moment, and I think we've thrashed this out really well at the Audit and Risk Committee as well. So I have full confidence in this and very happy to support.
Thank you. Anybody else? I fully support it and thank the staff for the work. We have worked really hard on this. So all those in favour? Aye. All those against? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We're moving to 11.2, Water Done Well. Is that Dougal and Olivia coming forward or not? Either? No? Okay. I'm going to move it to put on the table, noting we have got an amendment. So I would call for a seconder. Councillor Ford, thank you. And now I'll hand it straight to Councillor Hayward for his amendment.
Kia ora koutou. The amendment is on the screen right now, and I have sent the initial motion, but has been adjusted slightly by officers to make it sit inside the SO. I want to thank the Mayor and the officers for their help on this one, and the motion gets to a place where both me and the Mayor can live with it. I don't want to go over the details of the rationale that I already have sent to you guys about that, about why I believe that we should start the work now to have in conjunction with other matters that have to be discussed as, if this motion passes, we continue to do the work on a potential regional CCO. But I do want to point out that the work, the sentiment that's conveyed in this amendment has already been covered in amendments that have been passed by Wellington City Council and Hutt City Council on Tuesday. My understanding is that a similar motion will be coming to the Upper Hutt City Council as well. So in terms of the sheer number of consumers that could be affected by a consumer charter, today would represent us being the last piece of the 3 largest councils in that assembly. So I think it's important for us not just to be seen to be working on this, but to be working in concert with other councils as well. Likewise, as I referred to in the rationale, there is still a need to work with those councils who have not had an opportunity yet to have a conversation about the idea of a consumer charter. And it would be wrong of us to only say that just because the big fellas had a say, nobody else gets to have a say. Good faith negotiation requires, I think, feedback from all councils as part of this. The second point I would just want to highlight as well is that any discussion about a consumer charter must be in the mix in terms of a broader conversation with our residents and ratepayers who are going to feed in this public consultation process. So starting this process now allows us to be more upfront with them when we get to that place where we start to have an even conversation. The final point I want to make is this. It is a complicated issue. And the suggestions that I had placed in the rationale about what a consumer charter could have may not necessarily be the ones that end up in a final consumer charter. But that said, rather than, in my view, having a letter of expectation which has to reiterate certain things every time, it would be better to just have those issues which are so eternal to the good functioning and the service, the duty of care and the service of water provision that we as a council will have no say over once we transfer the assets over. So our last possible chance to set expectations from a beyond the leaders of expectation is, in my view, part of a consumer charter. And so while I understand that there will need to be some detail work that will have to be done by any new entity, and likewise some negotiation that has to happen across all the councils in the lead up to a decision if they so choose to go down the pathway of a regional supplier. I want to make sure that that's made absolutely clear, that nothing in my amendment presupposes that we will vote automatically for a regional provider. My hope is, though, providing a consumer charter allows us to have a conversation about dealing with some of the more tricky issues that the regional provider would demonstrate. And with that, that's my whakaaro. Kia ora.
Councillor Hayward. So we're talking about the amendment. So Councillor Trillin. I seconded it. Sorry. Yeah, Councillor Trillin.
Thank you very much, Mayor Baker. I'll speak.
I didn't. You did. Sorry. Did you? Are you seconding the amendment?
If you would like to second it, I'm very happy for you to. Otherwise, I'm very happy.
No, I didn't. I said he can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Whatever works.
I moved the first one. Sorry. Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm just about to speak in favour of the amendments.
Thank
that does
you.
make sense. I might just speak once now and cover off everything I want to, and instead of looping back around,
Okay.
I will speak to the amendment first. I think including a consumer a charter like this is an absolute no-brainer. I wanted to acknowledge actually the work that Jeff has done on this, both to bring this amendment to the table, but also coordinating with councillors across the region to make sure that there is a similar approach being taken in Wellington, in Hutt City, and going to Upper Hutt as well. I think starting from a place of strong cooperation and coordination across the region on something like this is absolutely the way that we want to start this process. I'm very, very happy with that, and I just want to acknowledge the mahi that Councillor Hayward has put in. So thank you very much for that, Jeff. So obviously supporting the amendment. In terms of the substantive, I'll speak to that now as well, just while I'm talking. I strongly support the proposed option that we're looking at and we'll be voting on today. Noting that the proposed option that we are looking at is the closest to what would have happened under the affordable water reforms proposed by the previous government. And I do just want to acknowledge that I am disappointed in the delays that have come about in addressing our very urgent water issues as a result of the approach that the new government has taken. However, in saying that, I'm very glad that we're here now. I'm very glad that we're voting on it today and that it's going to be proceeding. I do also want to keep our mind open in the future to how a potential regional water entity, which is the most efficient and effective option, could potentially grow. To bring in more councils later on as well, beyond the immediate ones that we're looking at right now. The more councils that are involved, the greater those economies of scale become, the better the savings for everyone. So this is a really good starting point, and I'm really excited about how that could grow and develop in the future. So I'll strongly be supporting this and the amendment as well from Councillor Hayward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to the amendment? Yep, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments about the work that Jeff's put into that amendment. I think it's fine. A couple of things concern me. I think the water regulator would probably be the person who would, or the department that would set those parameters. I don't want councils having to be responsible for people who haven't paid their bills. That has to be something like WINS or one of those departments that handles that, and not councils having to support it. But overall, I support the idea of it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, do you want to speak again? You can. Yes, you can finish off.
I just thought that I should respond to Councillor Duncan's concerns, which I think is quite understandable. A cost would have to be met by any new provider if there is an issue of non-payment of debts. And I think that is the operator's expectation, that they're the ones who have to deal with that because they'll be the owners of the assets. But I also am mindful that we do have a duty of care as local leaders to make sure that an operator that is in the public interest, that will still be owned by shareholding councils, even if it doesn't have day-to-day operational control, is serving the best interests of future consumers, potential future consumers, I should say. And so it is important to get ahead of these types of issues as soon as possible, so as to give certainty to the public as part of their part of the process of consultation with regards to whatever choice that we choose, as all the other councils are going to have to choose as part of their action plans. So I'll leave it there. And look, thanks again for the comments of support. But obviously, many hands make light work. We're going to need to empower the mayor, as well as the conversations that they will be having around the table as part of the AOG as well. Kia ora.
Thank you. Obviously, I'm supporting the amendment, as are the other mayors in the region who have voted so far. We've shared, I think, the amendment as well. We are consumers who are sitting here as well, just remember us. So this is all of us involved with this. So I am totally supporting this. So, Kathleen, would you like to speak?
I just wanted to talk to what both Councillor Duncan and Councillor Hayward were saying. Recently, I learned about Papakura and how they deal with water up there, and they actually, the water company, work alongside NGO, and they're the ones who work directly with people who are struggling with paying their bills. So there are options that are a little outside of the square, and so just to speak to that, and I total call your amendment as well, Councillor Hayward, and I think it just makes sense. It's all the things we want, especially local mahi in there, and all the other good stuff you said.
All right, well, the amendment's been moved and seconded. So all those in favour? All those against? That's carried. So we come to our substantive. Is anyone else wanting to speak to that? I do agree, first on, that the other councils need to sign up. Those that are going to come in later will pay a bit more because the rest of us have had to put our necks on the line, but this is the only way forward from my point of view, so I completely support this. I do want to acknowledge Wendy, Dougal, Olivia, the work that's been done to the side for all this. There is so much work in behind. We have another one of our meetings tomorrow, and it is hard work because some councils are going one way and some the other, and I acknowledge all of you as councillors who, in my view, are sensible. You're making great decisions. We are really good at being a team at this council and looking and putting our residents first. So I do want to congratulate you all for that. Right, so, yeah, Councillor Waddle.
I just want to echo basically what you've said and what's been said previously by Councillor Trillan around the fact that, we're finally getting to this point where we can actually get something done and hopefully done well. If there'd been trust in the previous government to do what they'd set out to do, we wouldn't be, still fighting over our budgets and trying to get rates to pay for years of underinvestment. So it's great that we've got to this stage, and I hope it carries on and continues. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes who's done the work so far and will continue to do the work, because it's not going to be an easy transition period for everyone, but it's great that we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep, Councillor Hayward.
Quick comment to say that in addition to the comments already raised as well, and this was alluded to by me in the workshop, one of the things that I think has enhanced this process previous to the previous occasion, in spite of our own partisan forgivings, me and Councillor Trillan, is that there is a great deal more transparency in terms of the average person being able to understand what is going on in this process. The information is far more open and accessible. Our process of deliberation and conversation and asking questions on behalf of our own constituents is also important as well. That's an important principle that's going to become important once we get to the vote to talk about public consultation, because we need to be able to address what is going to be some curly issues, none of which, the solutions of which are going to make anyone feel happy when it comes to their pocketbook. But we do need to have that conversation. Kia ora.
Acknowledge that. Anybody else? No? Okay, so it's moved and seconded. So all those in favour? Aye. All those against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We're now going to move into public exclusion.